A Division I level quarterback who is in the transfer portal, one of the most underrated arm talents in Colorado. If you are looking for a pro style QB who can get things done, right, this is the guy. Kaiden Box is a player who should be on your college football team starting full scholarship. All right. So we're going to come back with another portal prospects for these the Scout Speak episodes. Just going over some prospects, man. That's really all this is just looking at players. Again, this is something new. I did one on Monty Jackson, who is a nickel corner defensive back, slot corner, free safety cornerback from CSU Pueblo in Pueblo, Colorado, who is transferring out of CSUP, a D2 school, a top D2 school in the RMAC. Now, we are going to talk about another player that I scouted when he was in high school, and that is Kaiden Box. Kaiden Box is currently a Division I level quarterback who is in the transfer portal from the University of Northern Colorado. So when we say UNC in Colorado, everybody knows that we're talking about Northern Colorado and Greeley. If you are not from Colorado and you are in Colorado and people say UNC, they are not talking about North Carolina. Just to let you know, that took me a little bit of getting used to, but I just kind of want to put that out there. So if I say UNC, I am not talking about the Tar Heels. I know everywhere else that means Tar Heels. In Colorado, that means the Golden Bears. The Bears in Northern Colorado and Greeley. So, Kaiden Box, all right? So this is a player, again, that I scouted when he was in high school at Skyline, out in the Longmont, St. Vrain school district. So he's from Longmont, Colorado, hometown, local kid. Now, Kaiden, to me, has always been one of the most underrated arm talents in Colorado. I think a lot of it has to do with, one, obviously with where he was, being in Longmont and playing at Skyline. Skyline's not really a team that's, that has a lot of eyes on it. Even at the high school level, people just kind of don't pay attention to Skyline. It's just what it is. They're one of many schools that have to deal with that. But Kaiden, ever since I first saw him play, ever since I first saw him throw, this kid is different. The issue is he just ends up in certain situations to where he wants to prove himself. And that's the thing about Colorado kids in general. I've mentioned this before. They're very proud, and there's a certain level of they want to prove people wrong. They want to prove themselves right, but they also want to, they want to do this with their friends. Look at this. His banner picture. This is awesome. Like, this is when he was at Skyline, and they loved him. And they still do. I hear people talk about Kaiden and what happened to Kaiden and how underrated it is, and why is he not getting his playing time and stuff like that. And we can get into that. I have my opinions on his situation at Northern Colorado. I think the most obvious is if you look at their quarterback room, it's a bunch of mobile quarterbacks. It's a lot of potential dual threat guys. I don't necessarily think all of them are dual threats. I do think that, a Peter Costelli was a dual threat who entered the transfer portal. Then you had Gibson, who is I would say he's more of a mobile than a dual threat. I don't see him as a true runner, as a ball carrier, but he is somebody that if he's got to get out of the pocket and take off, he can, and he will pick up the stuff with his legs, also in the transfer portal. And then you have, they picked up a couple other quarterbacks. They had Kai Keone, who is kind of a runner as well. So if you look at that whole QB room, and it's a lot of mobile guys. And then you have the one 6'4", 230-pound QB who is a true pro style pocket passing quarterback. Doesn't fit their scheme. And that's really what it is. I mean, there's, Coach Ed Lamb, who is the head coach of Northern Colorado, has said himself that Kaiden is the best arm on the team. He's the best true passer on the team. And a lot of people are wondering, well, if he's the best arm, the best true passer as a quarterback, why is he not your guy? The reality is he doesn't fit their scheme. And I know, there's a thought of mold your scheme around your player. And yes and no. If your scheme is full running, to change a scheme that has a full quarterback room at minus one guy that is strictly for a running quarterback, and you want to change all of that for a guy who is not a running quarterback, well, what you end up with is a depth issue because you don't have another tall pocket passer. So God forbid something happened to Kaiden, he goes down, you don't have anybody backing him up, and your scheme now does not fit anybody else in your QB room. So if anything, I hate to say it, but hindsight is undefeated. This just wasn't the right fit for Kaiden. My personal opinion for him coming out of high school, though, is he's a clear Division I talent. I mean, his arm is legit. The thing is he just went to a spot that, good, it was close to home and stuff like that, but unfortunately it just didn't fit him. So jumping into what you're kind of getting with this player when he was on the field and everything. So as you see here, 6'4", 230, redshirt freshman with 3 years of eligibility. Now, the great thing about a player like this, and I'm just going to let this roll as if you can kind of see it right there. We're going to jump into this in a second. But last year, he did get to play. He started the game against Portland State. He actually started in the game against Cal Poly, one of the many games that I was able to be on the sidelines for. Shout out to UNC for real, because that is a school that ever since I started coaching football in Colorado in 2019, high school, when I started coaching high school football in 2019, we did a pad camp there. And ever since, there has been somebody on staff that I've been connected with and help get kids recruited there. So, shout out to them. Granted, this one didn't work out. It kind of is what it is. But so I'm going to start with the Cal Poly game. He did start it. He didn't really have his chance to actually, I want to say, fully play that game. There was a lot of rotation stuff going on. He only went 2 of 8 for 11 yards in that game. No interceptions. He's thrown no interceptions his entire time here. But he did get the one game last year in 2024 season against Portland State. He went 14 of 28. So he was 14 of 28 attempts, 14 completions for 221 yards and a single touchdown. And last year, that was one of the best performances that they had all season, especially out of a quarterback. I mean, and he looked great doing it. But, knowing Kaiden, he is somebody who wants to finish out what he starts. He wants to prove himself. He's very loyal. He is somebody who wants to stay. Now, being in Colorado high school, there is open enrollment. So the transfer portal in high school has been a thing forever. And we can get into all that stuff about CHSA on a completely different, a completely different episode or anything like that. But right now, for me, this is something that I always felt like if Kaiden would have transferred out of Skyline, and I respect the fact that he didn't, but if he would have, there's a school that he could have gone to that at the time needed a quarterback, and he would have been the guy. Kaiden would probably have had anywhere from 3 to 8 Division I offers, going from FCS on up through FBS. His arm is legit. The arm talent is unreal. The issue was, again, is he was at Skyline. He was in a place where very few people were paying attention outside of the local beat writers who, covered, and they do a great job of covering the local papers that do a good job of covering their local talent and sports and athletes. And then you had Playmakers Corner at the time who were going to games. And then I myself for Prep Red Zone at the time when I was with Prep Red Zone, I am no longer. Yeah, we covered him, but it's just kind of hard at that time because, it's hard to see it on film when you're looking around and when you're gauging, talent around him and talent against him. It was just difficult, but he was on the field with Joseph Capra at the same time. And, those quarterbacks look good on the field together. And so this is something that I don't want to say necessarily has come to bite him or anything, but it has made his journey a little bit more difficult. But I would say the amount that he's learned from it, and full disclosure, the Box family are close friends of mine as well. So I do want to put that out there. This is a kid that I know. This is a young man that I know him, and I know his parents. I know his family. They're a great family. This is somebody that if you start to recruit him, if you're looking for a quarterback in the portal who is a pro style QB, 6'4", 230, who can throw, and don't get me wrong, just because he's pro style doesn't mean he can't get up and skedaddle if he's got to. He's got long legs. It may not look the most graceful, but 4 steps and he's 9 yards down the field. So just keep that in mind. But he is a very loyal player, to the point of where he kind of thought he probably should have entered the portal following last season. After that Portland State game, he stayed because he wanted to prove himself, and wanted to have the opportunity, but learned that, this one's it's just not working out for him there. And so it's time for him to do something different. So let's go ahead and check out his film there. For a big guy, quick drop back, quick release on a short game. I like that. All right. And he does train with Fairchild. So he's got some good teaching coming behind him. Look at that. I mean, that was a well-placed ball over 2 guys and in front of another one. And I really like how quick his film is. I mean, it gets to the point. Here's some practice clips, red jersey. That one might have been a little bit of a dangerous ball, but it still got right in the spot. All right, like you get them where they need to be. Sometimes receivers got to earn their money. Perfect. No hesitation there, getting that ball in there. Was that a blue-gray scrimmage, it looks like? I mean, and he can read the field. He knows what he's doing. He knows where he's at. That's not on him. So he can move if he needs to. He can extend if he needs to. He's not gonna beat the speedsters, but he's not gonna make it easy for him. Look at that, quick with it. Just get the yards. I mean, this is a guy that, with the right offensive scheme, I mean, you're gonna win with him. I've heard people talk about, why is Kaiden not, I mean, he's a gem. He really is a gem. And something about this player as well, JUCO. I love that. I love that one. Hold on, we're gonna back that one up a little bit. I'm a big fan of his movement here. Just right here, just working around it. I'm not a QB guy, so I don't know the terminology and all that stuff, but I really like that movement and staying light on his toes for a big 6'4" guy. He goes and throws next to Paxton Lynch, being a Steve Fairchild, going and training with him. I mean, he works a lot of off-platform stuff as well. Throwing motion is solid. I mean, and he gets that ball out quick. No around the world stuff with that throwing motion. It's right where it needs to be. See some mobility there. See some more mobility here on a little bootleg. Now, one thing with Kaiden, JUCO. Kaiden is the perfect prospect for JUCO. And I honestly believe that. I know that JUCO is something that he's not just open to, but it's kind of like that's kind of what they're looking at, is taking him JUCO. Now, obviously, if something pops up that there's money behind it and scholarship and stuff like that. You go where that is so you can get your schooling. But going to a JUCO, I think, is something that it would help to elevate Kaiden Box's name, would help to elevate his stock as a transfer out of JUCO. I think he could go to a JUCO right now, a competitive one that's looking to make a run in their postseason, and be a guy and be the guy on offense to help take them to where it is that they're trying to go. And then he'll transfer out higher out of JUCO, and go to where guys like me and a bunch of other people always felt like he should have always been. And that is a high D1 Division I prospect. I would love to see him come back home and play at Colorado State. I know he could play there. I mean, I think he's a better quarterback than BFN, but I'm not going to get into that. But when you look at a kid like Kaiden Box and he says, I'm interested in going JUCO to just get on the field immediately and start working. I mean, he's been sitting behind and had, having his time pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, that he's ready to go. So if you're a JUCO coach who is looking for a quarterback to come in right now and to lead your offense into the postseason next season, this is your guy, and he's willing to do it. All right, he's willing to do it. I'm letting you know that right now. That is a big one on his plate. That they're saying, hey, if we can go JUCO, we're gonna go JUCO. Now, does that mean that they're gonna shy away from D2s or anything like that? Absolutely not. But at that point, I think the Box family does understand that this is a bit of a business, and there are some moves that they kind of want to make a little bit different and make sure they invest right. So just know that, this is a scholarship player. Like, this isn't somebody that he doesn't want to come in and sit behind somebody, doesn't, want to have to be given a partial scholarship to maybe not play. Like, he'd rather go and pay the tuition to play at a JUCO right now and show you guys. Now, if I were a betting man, I would bet it all on Box. I'm telling you that right now, and that's not even a joke. This is one of those, listen to me now, but leave me later on moments that I promise you, if you are listening to this right now, Kaiden Box is a player who should be on your college football team starting full scholarship. Not even joking. Okay. Granted, if your offensive scheme requires you to have a mobile quarterback, okay, then go find your mobile quarterback. But if you are looking for a pro style QB who can get things done, right? This is the guy. This is one of those guys that these coaches who obviously scout and they do their own evaluations on players, and they look up a player like this and they see him, they see his talent, then they go out, they get him, they build around him, they start winning, and then people go, oh my God, this Kaiden Box guy, like, oh, where did he come from? Nobody ever knew about him. And then there's going to be a bunch of us standing there screaming at you that we've been telling you this since he was a senior in high school, that Kaiden Box is that guy. And I promise you, right? I'm not always right, but when it comes to stuff like this, I would say I'm like rarely wrong. It's one of those things. I know what I know. I don't know everything, but I know what I know. And what I know is that Kaiden Box is a prospect who is in the portal who should be picked up ASAP. Watch what'll happen. You'll win with him. I promise you. Till next time.